Attention, attention, this is part 3. Mercedes 240D repairs.
Once again, looking forward in front of the car on the right side and into the rear right tire well. This here is the stabilizer bar, and it bolts onto the back of the wheel mounting. This here is the bracket. It holds it to the body, the stabilizer bar bracket. Now I cut all this away because it was rusted out, and you can see this here is the bottom, like of a box beam, and this would have been one side of it, and that would have been the other side. And it goes all the way back to where you mount the rear bumper. So it's kind of a structural part formed out of sheet metal, a box shape, and it curves around here and makes a little indent there for the wheel to go up and down. See, there's your suspension and your spring. So the wheel would go up to here in a big bump. So you kind of got to arc over the top of it, so the box curves around up here, I assume. But this is the part that's rusted out, and it's so rusted out that when I turn these screws to take that bracket off, they just twist it, so I had to get in there. So I'm going to have to cut away this one and drop that down and figure out something to put in there to replace turn it back into a beam is what I'm trying to say. I have to put a sheet of metal here and tie it all together. Now this is, once again, there's the wheel, and looking forward, and there's the end of the rocker panel box, if you can see in there. That's what's holding the car up. I got to be careful. So this is the inside of the wheel well, and it was like a stamping, and you can see it came down along this seam here, and they spot welded it all along to a back part, which I haven't figured out yet. I think it kind of curves inward to form the inner body of the car. So this is also rusted, and I'll have to put a sheet there to re-up that. This here, I think, is a stop, so when you bottom out the suspension, it doesn't slam against something metal. It hits this rubber stopper. So the further I've gotten into it, the more rust I've discovered. Oh, this poor car. It's getting to the point where I'm really starting to think this might become a, well, let's be nice, let's call it a parts car. I think I can still, at this point, do a quick fix and get it back on the road and drive it for another year. But if I get carried away, this is going to be sitting here for a month or two. Oh boy. Ooh, I hope the wife doesn't see this. I got the bracket out that holds this this bar. Well, the nuts were spinning. You can see I had to cut one. Basically, just got in there with a handsaw and just cut through the bolt until I could snap it off with the wrench. You can see that's pretty deteriorated in there. And cleaned it up a little more. Also got in here and dug out this, that doesn't look too bad. That'll probably be 2 or 3 pieces of metal and a bit of welding. That I haven't quite figured out yet. That might just be a piece of metal on top and do it for cosmetics. I don't think it's that structural. That's mainly to keep the water off the structural part. See where that bracket came out was what quite rusted out. Getting this out took about, and once I got started, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. This is the solution I came up with for getting this bracket to bolt back on. You can see I made this plate, and I'll show you what it is. It's basically a bent piece of 16 gauge steel. I put these nuts in my metal lathe and cut a little, I guess, a shelf on them there. You can see on here they fit through the holes that I machined in the plate to locate them accurately. I've already bolted it up once and everything does fit. And the idea will be to, of course, you put the screws in from the bottom and they screw up in there. You had to weld the nuts to the plate, because once I put the plate here, I won't be able to hold the nuts in the back. They're blind. Let's see if you can see that from below. Yeah, you can see that's how I weld up in there. Not much left there to attach to, but I found just enough to get it in there. I don't think this this thing, it takes a lot of strain. It kind of just lines up the. I mean, it's held in a rubber bracket, so it doesn't take a lot of strain, and it attaches over here. I think it just kind of lines up the two brakes. It took a while to make the piece. I only use the 16 gauge when I need to do structural. Here I'm planning on using maybe 22 gauge up in here to finish out this box. Okay, this is the piece in place. I've got a rubber gasket down here, so I can't weld it all at once, so I'm going to tack it in place. Then I'll take the bolts out, drop this piece, and be able to weld some more on it without fear of melting that. So let's hope I can. This weld right here is going to be a little tricky. I hope I can get it. This piece is kind of really rusted. I'm going to try to reinforce it. See what happens. Oh, that works nice. Ouch. You really shouldn't weld in short pants, but I am. Now I'll take the bolts out. If I didn't get any dingleberries on them, they should come out fairly easy. Here I'm removing the last of the two bolts. You got to be careful because it's still hot. There you go, and that piece drops away. I can just let it sit there. Didn't have enough clearance to get my clamps in. I didn't want this piece of metal in here anyway. To straighten this out. As you can see, with a good pair of aviation snips, you can make short work of this automotive sheet metal. It cuts fairly easy and leaves a fairly nice, if not a little bit sharp edge. It's spot welded on, so you can pull it back a little bit usually and get to it in between the spot welds. There we go. Of course, I'll have to clean that up later. This is all going to get a piece of metal in there, so it doesn't really matter. And that gives me access to put my my clamp on, hopefully. And just get it in there, I think, which I need to do to be able to weld down here. Well, it's getting a little hot. I probably could work a little bit longer, but right up here is a sparrow's nest, and when I'm working down here, they absolutely will not feed their babies, and the babies are screaming, so I'm knocking off because it's hot and the birds are hungry. There you go. Well, that didn't turn out too bad. I'll have to eventually grind that to get it smooth. I started working back towards the back of the car. I have to get all this rebuilt. I made this piece. It's made out of an old PC, like a computer case. I hit it with the torch to knock some of the paint off, then sanded it to shine it up. I punched holes in it with my Whitney punch. Guys, if you don't have a Whitney punch, you should get one if you do sheet metal work. They're incredible. I think they make Chinese clones now, they're cheaper, but this is a genuine Whitney Jr. This piece is going to go like that. I'm going to clamp it in place. I made these holes so I can get the torch in there and use them like spot welds, and they'll be welded to the bottom here. So I'll do the ones at this end first, and then clamp it as I go along to get a nice fit the contour of it. I had to clean it up on the bottom. First I had to hit it with the heat gun and knock the old bottom coat off, and then mark the where the holes came through for the spot welds and made sure they were shiny so I can get a good weld on them. Oh yeah, welding upside down.